Welcome back to Before the Queue. I'm your host, Rose Sabulski. I'm an agility handler, dog trainer, and someone who's learning right alongside all of you. I hope you're looking forward to spring because I sure am. Where I am, there's still a ton of snow, and sadly, in the forecast, there's a bit more on the way. But yesterday was the warmest day we've had in months, and I just felt like Cheryl Crow soaking up the sun. It was so good. Hope you got that reference. I won't sing for you, but it's definitely playing in my head lately. I'm really excited about this episode. This idea has been rolling around my brain for a while. I hope I can do it justice. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about what it actually means to show up on the start line as the handler and the trainer that your dog needs, as a good teammate. I think it sounds simple, but when you're in the ring, especially as a beginner, it's not always. I think we all want to say that we have no expectations. Realistically, we probably hope things go a certain way, or we wouldn't show up in the first place. Goals, we want to move forward. And sometimes I can speak for myself only here, but sometimes it can really feel like we're a bit stuck. So, showing up as the teammate your dog needs, I actually think that takes a lot of effort. So, today I want to talk about it a bit. Recently, I went to a trial with Miss Leviosa that forced me to rethink a lot of things: my handling, my expectations, and how I'm showing up for her. I think dogs can read us pretty consistently: our emotions, clarity, pressure, everything in the environment. And they tell us when something's hard, sometimes quietly and sometimes loudly. Levy is not quiet. I think anyone who's met her would not describe her as a quiet dog. She is a barker. When she's struggling, I am very aware of it, and she will keep telling me that she is struggling. If you've listened to podcasts before, or if this is your first time, you should know that we have had quite a journey with our start line. It's gone through growth, recession, and growth again. It's basically the economy. In my head, our start line routine is very clear. We walk in together, she comes to my side, she sits, I take off the leash, I walk out, and we begin. But in order to access agility, she needs to sit at my side. What was clear to me, apparently very muddy for her. If she could speak English, that would have been extremely helpful. Unfortunately, it's not a skill she's mastered yet. I don't necessarily know that I want Levy to be able to speak English, but it would be helpful in this situation. Luckily, she's extremely communicative in her own way. And I will be honest with you, sometimes that creates its own pressure for me. She barks really loudly and intensely. Whether it's perceived or real, can sometimes feel like people are judging me for that. But that's just really a part of who she is. Barking is very reinforcing for her. And so it's something I am coming to appreciate about her. In reality, most people don't care what I do in a trial in the kindest, nicest way. I assume, I hope to think that most people who are standing on the sidelines, if they're actually watching us run, we're hoping it goes well. Because anytime I'm watching somebody else, that's how I feel. I want them to run clean. I want to clap at the end, and I always do it. My brain tells me a different story, and sometimes that's really hard. She's a very dependable dog, especially at the level that we're trialing in competition. But to access agility, to start the whole sequence, she needs to sit her ass on the start line. If she cannot do that, I don't really have a dog to run the course with. I will absolutely take a lot, all of the responsibility here. I was definitely patching the start line behavior in competitions instead of fixing it. I'd often run one or two runs FEO, NFC, whatever you want to call that. And maybe I'd adjust a few things, but I really was not holding our start line routine to the criteria that I had in my brain. So Levy was not very impressed with that. Levy's the kind of dog who's like, nope, if I can get away with it once, I'm going to keep getting away with it. She's an intense dog. She loves agility. And running the course with me is incredibly reinforcing for her. But something about that lineup behavior simply does not make sense to her. In some ways, I think she thinks it's stupid, but it's how you access everything after it. So it's happening. I went back to training after our trial in December, where it became very clear this was an issue. I asked myself, what does this start line routine look like in my head? and what does it actually look like when we're on the start line? Unfortunately, those turned out to be very different pictures. And so I worked with my coaches to come up with a plan. We talked through several options. I committed to visualizing both success and failure. I planned for both outcomes so that I could show up as the teammate that Levy needed. We broke down what the behavior looks like in reality versus what's actually happening. And then I trained this behavior everywhere I could. We worked away from equipment. I took the behavior on adventures. We went on field trips, different training spaces, different environments, adding pressure wherever I could. Sometimes that meant reinforcement on the ground. Sometimes it meant that Norbert was flailing around like a distraction, other handlers, leash runners. I tried to make it as trial environment as I possibly could with the limited access that I have to coursework at this time. Levy could do it everywhere. We took a scent work class. Every rep started with a lineup behavior before she got to do the search. We practiced at a bookstore, hardware store, lumber yard, on walks, you name it, Levy could do this behavior. And so when we went to our trial in February, I had so much evidence in my head that this was a trained behavior. And let me tell you, this was not true, at least not in this environment. She simply could not access the file in her brain that said if you sit, you get access to everything that is good in this space. She had no idea how to access that file in her brain. She did not know how to line up. It was really difficult for me. At first, I felt a little frustrated. I'll be honest. I put in weeks of work. I thought, hey, this is way more fluent than it was when we started. And after I kind of thought about this for a minute, it was clear. This is not Levy being stubborn. It's not a lack of desire to do the thing. Levy loves agility, perhaps more than I do. This is a training problem. I remember sitting ringside and really feeling frustrated. Luckily, the community that I have is immensely supportive for the most part. And I was processing, and it was frustrating. After our first run and another unclear run on our second run, I asked myself, what can I do right now to help her? Because in that moment, it was very clear to me that she was drowning. And the answer wasn't to just keep throwing more water on her and telling her, figure out how to swim. I had two choices. I could keep asking the same question and getting the same answer, or I could pivot and help her succeed. If that trial ends up being the biggest lesson that Levy gives me this year, it was well worth it. In the moment, I hated that she couldn't answer the question. I felt discouraged that I had done so much work and it was not showing. But I had to remember something that I once heard in the horse world. Only one of you gets to freak out at a time. It's either you or your horse, and it's never your turn. I really think that that applies here too. If my dog is struggling and I'm struggling, I am the one who has to shift. And recently, I was listening to the Agility Odyssey podcast. Sarah talked about having a North Star competition, a long-term goal that guides your decisions throughout the year. And Sarah has talked to me about this numerous times in her coaching membership. And for me, my North Star is the Canadian Open. I want to show up there and feel like we belong. That is my long-term goal. I want to show up there and I want to compete. So I asked myself, does adding pressure for her to line up perfectly, which she clearly has shown me 2 runs in a row she cannot do, so me just asking the same question again, is that going to help us get there? I didn't really know what to do. I was at a loss, and I brought in personally, fun fact, don't really love snooker. I'm not there yet. I know I have a friend, Laura. She tells me, Rose, you love snooker. You just keep saying that until you really do love snooker. I said, Laura, I don't love snooker. Anyway, so I always bring in a toy in snooker just to get myself in there running. I work on some different skills without the pressure of the buzzer. I brought in the toy and she could line up. And if I had to rate this lineup, it would be maybe a 4 out of 10. But it was still better than a 0 out of 10, which was what I was getting before. So when I started to see that, I started to say, okay, I guess I just have to bring a toy in. If this helps to create a bridge for her, let's do that. On Sunday, I committed to using this trial as training. So all of my runs for the rest of the weekend, I sliced them as FEO so I didn't feel any pressure to run the full course. I could play with my dog and have some fun. And then I could book some time with my coach to go over what she would do or what she might recommend. On Sunday, there was this beautiful Master Series course. And honestly, it looked perfect for us. And one of my goals is to earn our Master Series buy for the Open. And realistically, looking at this course, there were some tricky parts. Absolutely. However, a lot of the skills, I was like, we got that. But luckily, I had decided ahead of time to run that course FEO before I saw it. And if I wasn't chasing that buy, I could show up as the teammate that Levy needed with no pressure. During that run, I spent 35 seconds of our 50-second course time playing start line games with my dog because that's what she needed, even though that wasn't what I wanted. Running FEO removed pressure for both of us. I could reward, I could play with her toy, focus on success, avoid getting frustrated with mistakes. I drove 6 hours to that trial expecting to compete. Instead, it became a training weekend. And honestly, clearly, that's exactly what we needed as a team. Her lineup behavior got clearer and clearer throughout the day. It also revealed where my training still had gaps. But once I reframed the weekend as training towards our North Star competition, that decision felt really easy. Showing up as the handler your dog needs doesn't always mean running the course the way you planned. Sometimes it means that you pivot, slow down, or play with a toy, I guess. The better we get at listening to our dogs, reviewing video, staying curious instead of getting frustrated, using FEO strategically, the better teammates we become. Levy's teaching me a ton, and I can tell she is not done teaching me things. Hopefully, with my next dog, I'll be able to identify these things earlier and train them more clearly. And to be fair, I have identified this throughout her lifetime, but it's just become a new problem. And for her, this behavior is hard, and she is trying her hardest. Right now, the question I keep asking myself is simple: how can I show up better for you so you can show up better for us? Thank you so much for listening. I have some incredible guests coming up over the next few weeks. So if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you do so you don't miss these conversations. And if this episode resonated with you, please consider sharing it with a training friend. It really helps the podcast grow. I appreciate every single one of you. I hope you have a great day. Get outside, have some fun with your dogs. And most importantly, I hope you're enjoying agility